Hello, folks, and welcome to Hash It Out. This is going to be kind of a special edition or special episode, if you will, of Hash It Out. My name is Justin Moorhead. This is Mitch Evans. What we want to talk to you a little bit about today is the recent assassination of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk, an American political activist, famous for founding Turning Point USA, was recently shot and killed at a speaking engagement at a college in Utah in front of 3,000 people. Been widely circulated online and has drummed up a lot of discussion. What we were just talking about actually is how broadly this has been interacted with across all different types of beliefs and political positions. Everybody seems to be impacted by it and have a lot to say about it. So we thought it would be very helpful. Hopefully it's helpful to you all for us to talk a little bit more in depth about it. Just as kind of a starting point, right now online in particular, there's many that are claiming that this murder was somehow justified or maybe somehow to be expected because of the political positions that Charlie Kirk held. So as a Christian, how should Christians think about those types of claims?
Yeah, I think that is kind of the moment. What happened was sad.
Yes.
And it devastating to a lot of folks. I think the amount of vitriol that came immediately on its heels, I was surprised by, to be very frank. I think a lot of folks were. There's been those who've lost their jobs over it. I even think some local sportscaster lost their job over the weekend because of the comments they made, and then around the country, that's been the case. What I think is helpful maybe is to give a little more detail. What I have experienced personally is people saying, in essence, good riddance. I know that's there's no good way to say it, right?
Sure.
They're saying good riddance. What I do think you said is absolutely true. They are justifying murder. So they're saying this murder is justified because he disagreed with my views, he held opposing political views. I think for Christians to process that well is what would be key. So on the one hand, I would say we should not be surprised by it. So James chapter 4 is giving this very helpful kind of causation and diagnosis for it. So he says, what causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? You desire and do not have, so you murder. And so the desire there being, I want somebody to affirm my way of life and not to critique it. So I think Charlie Kirk, at least from my vantage point, only watching videos, I've never engaged with the Turning Point organization he founded, but from watching videos, he was disputing that the way somebody was living was less valuable in God's sight. And they wanted to be told, no, my choices in life are equally as valuable, if not superior. So they desired that, they coveted it, could not get him to acquiesce, and so murder was the result. So I think the helpful maybe initial starting place is James is saying a Christian should realize this is actually part of the depraved state of man. So our natural bent is, if I don't get my way, I'm going to try to do everything in my power to cause you to give in to me. And if I cannot, as James says, once they ultimately cannot, they murder. And so I think James is describing really the situation we saw play out. Maybe you might elaborate on it, and then I think there's even, maybe secondarily, the Bible gives us some additional understanding of why this is in the human psyche. But anything on that initial idea?
No, I think that James is very helpful to that end, to place rightly where this type of violent lashing out comes from. Really, it comes from the selfish demand of affirmation, that we be affirmed and kind of recognized in everything. And when that's not made available, when that's not possible, it's the thing that's inside us from our heart is what lashes out. And in this tragic instance, what ultimately resulted in a young man with a family being murdered is precisely, I think, what James is describing.
Yeah, I think it's What he's describing, I think it's the impetus behind not only the initial assassination, but then also those who would agree with it. I think they're
Sure.
watching Charlie Kirk. They're feeling called out instead of affirmed. They think, if you're not going to affirm me,
Yeah.
then I want you silenced no matter what it takes.
Yes. Yeah. To be permanently silenced. I don't even want to have to listen to these types of critiques, corrections, denials. I mean, really, rejections of what I would believe or want, those sorts of things.
Yes. So I think that James is saying it's despicable.
Yes.
The way they're responding. At the same time, I think he's also saying we should anticipate it to some degree.
Yeah. Yeah.
That this is how human nature, apart from the Holy Spirit, is going to operate. And then I think in particular, the thing Charlie Kirk was touching on that made him so reprehensible to some folks is described in Romans 1. So in Romans 1, he says, the wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men. And here's the key phrase, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. So inasmuch as Kirk is explaining things that are true, because God has established how our world should operate, has established how our relationships should function, how we should identify ourselves as people and sexually and all these things. So once it's true, kind of the old adage, facts are facts,
Right.
I think was playing out. So inasmuch as he was describing truth, really there's not like a counterpoint, another view. Facts are facts. So in some sense, if he's describing the truth, all you can do is deny the truth.
Yeah.
Right? Suppress it. So the reason I think this passage is helpful, the suppress is giving, it's the same word that somebody originally speaking Greek, like this was written into the Romans, would have used for drowning. So I'm going to hold this idea down until it no longer can affect me because I don't have a counterpoint. It's just true.
Right.
So all I can do is try to destroy the truth.
Sure.
So I think what we saw with folks online was precisely that. It bothers me so much that Charlie Kirk is espousing these things, and I can't dream up of a good argument to undo him because he's speaking the truth. So in as much as what he's saying is true, all you have left is, I wish somebody would silence that voice. And so I think that's what we saw play out. So I think they wanted to be affirmed, and at the same time, there's no counterpunch because where he's speaking truth.
Sure.
And I think in many respects from the videos I've seen, we might not certainly agree with him in totality. But he was representing a Christian viewpoint on ethics primarily in a very clear, precise way. And so I think all you have left to do is suppress that.
Yeah, I think so. And I think even to the question, is this murder in any way justifiable? I think clearly it's not. I mean, this is not something that you can justify because it is based on the truth of what God has said, the truth of natural law. I mean, so many ethical categories that we would so quickly affirm that are authoritative and true and real in life, he was just saying those things. I think in a similar way, for Christians to maybe think about, well, then what should we do? I mean, I've heard a lot of different calls, rallying cries for how Christians should respond to this thing rightly. I think one of the things first to do is, while there's been a suppression of the truth that's led to this heinous event, embracing the truth is a very helpful starting place. So this was evil. It was sinful evil.
Yeah.
That's what it was. There's not a real need to try and get clever or creative to categorize it in any kind of another way. This was just evil that was being done and acted out on earth. So I think to be slow to speak in some degree, not to feel the need to now, in light of this, find a new hill to die on or become sort of a hasty activist on our own. Really, I think for a Christian to be slow to speak, to interact with really what's going on here, which is horrible evil that's taken place, and to let the true effect of that, not to suppress what that leads to. That leads to grief and sadness. It's a sad thing what happened to him. It is a horribly sad thing that his family's now having to walk this road. I think the reason why that path of slow to speak, recognizing the evil that it is, and allowing that grief to just kind of sit with us is so helpful, is because that is what will lead you ultimately to Jesus. This brokenness, this wanting things to be made right, wanting to have some sort of a hope beyond this world that can produce this type of evil, the only answer to that is Christ. So I think for a Christian to walk that road will find us in the right position, which is longing for Jesus, longing for his return, longing for his judgment and his justice in the world, and really depending and hoping in him more than kind of the things in the world around us.
Yeah, I would think so. I think the key thing being the gospel proclamation in particular, that there might be some boldness to come of that, would be right and fitting. The reason I would say it would be right and fitting is because it goes counter to what we might anticipate or what we would typically expect. So usually, if you see somebody else faced consequences for some action, you think, man, I better watch what I say. I could be next.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's even hoped for.
Sure.
I think in many instances. I mean, that's the very function of terror. However, Philippians, this as we're talking, I think Philippians is so helpful because Paul says the inclination for a Christian should be not a little different, should be drastically different. So he is writing from his own experience of somebody trying to silence him. And he says, and this is Philippians chapter 1, verse 14, and most of the brothers have become confident in the Lord by my imprisonment, are much more bold to speak the word without fear. So I think what he's saying is the natural inclination for a Christian, because of our perception that this is, for a believer, this life is preschool for eternity, as it's been described by others. And so this is just the very beginning. And so my inclination when I see somebody else who is willing to speak so boldly that it costs them something, to think, man, why have I been sitting back? I haven't been willing to take on just a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
This guy was willing to take on so much more than that.
Yes.
And so that it would have this emboldening in me proclaiming the gospel. So I think some might feel inclined, I need to be more politically active or whatever else.
Sure.
And I would encourage your caution to say, before you jump into a lot of initiatives, sit back, count the cost, as Jesus would say. But the area where I don't think we have to sit back is our boldness to proclaim Christ. This should be compelling.
Yes.
And I think that's the logic of Philippians, is not, man, he faced some really bad situation that ended his life, so I better watch what I say.
Yeah.
Is he was willing to give his life for this cause. How much more bold should I be?
Oh, yeah. Inspiration's a real thing. So, I mean, I think even in a situation like this, to know that in the way that God works, he could use this to inspire boldness in Christians across the country to be more bold in their everyday lives, even unrelated to this instance in particular, but just a boldness to be able to speak for Christ and share the gospel, whatever that might look like.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, we just wanted to take a few minutes to discuss this event, as sad as it is, and really to help us think through it well. Because as we mentioned, it has been so broadly and widely interacted with. I think it makes good sense for us to think as Christians how we should and maybe shouldn't think through the events that are surrounding this tragedy. So we will be back with a regular Hash It Out type of episode this week as well. So we hope that we will catch you then.